Okay. All right. Hey, welcome one and all to What's Cooking with Coach Chad, and welcome on a Wednesday evening. Thank you for coming in with us. We have a great show for you today. Two esteemed individuals in the baseball world that I would love to talk baseball with about what is going on in the youth sports arena. We have Mr. Dan Termine. I always mess that up. I don't know
Termine.
what
No,
it
it's
is.
Termine.
Termine, right on. All right, excellent. And not only that, I want to talk to him about what he is doing with Go to Pro Showcase, and also what he is doing on his youth with his high school baseball teams. Also, we have Jim from Triple Crown Prospects. Thank you both for joining us. They have a unique set of ideas and experiences when it comes to navigating not only the portal, JUCO, the youth sports industrial complex. Welcome, both of you. Thanks for having me, man. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Chad.
All right, man. Excellent. All right. I want to start with Dan. Dan, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about your experience so the listeners can understand where you're coming from. And then we'll go to Jim and we'll do the same thing. Just for a little background on who you are coaching, how long you've been coaching, and, that kind of fun stuff.
So I coach Go to Pro Baseball. This year, it's all 2026 grads and 127 grads, so all juniors and one sophomore. We had 6 seniors on our team last year that are done with our team. Not in a bad way, but it was time for them to be done. I've coached that since 11U. Before that, I coached travel baseball in our town, and then at the same time for a club baseball team called Cougars Elite, which Jim actually was part of that organization too. That was kids from all over the place, kind of like my Go to Pro team is right now. But I started coaching at 8U after being out of baseball for a long time. I had no idea about travel baseball, club baseball, none of that. My wife forced me into it when there was a need for a coach, when I really wasn't going to do it. She basically said, you need to do this. And since then, it's kind of been a part-time, full-time job, nonstop. But I've enjoyed every minute of it. It is a little bittersweet because this will be my last season with this team, just because the kids will all be seniors in high school. One will be a junior. But it is fun to see them as they progress to the next level. I'm pretty proud of the seniors that we had this year. I think 5 out of the 6 are going to play college baseball, committed athletes. And then the other one is a semi-genius who's going to go to a large Division I school and probably play club baseball there, or he'd like to. So I'm proud of the hard work that they put in. It's been a long road to it, but I've really loved watching them grow.
Awesome, man. And you are integral in their success, man. And more power to you. Thank you for doing what you do, Dan. Most definitely, man. We've talked a lot on Twitter before and a couple of interviews, man. And I love what you're doing up there in New York, man. Jim, welcome, man. How you doing, man? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I've been coaching since '99. I graduated. I played 4 years of baseball at the University of Rochester. Stayed on and coached there for 2 years. And I've been a head coach at Modified JV. I was a head varsity coach for 12 years. American Legion coach currently. The last 3 years, I coached travel baseball with my son from 8U through 17U. I own a baseball academy, lessons, private group. I do hitting competitions, do strength and conditioning. I run college showcases, and I'm also a commissioner of our District 7 American Legion league, which got 10 teams in it in our county.
Other than that, you're not doing much for baseball, are you? Awesome, man. Both of you guys are just like out there doing it, man. Makes me feel like I need to go do more, man. Listening to all these accolades, man.
I can't wait to do less. What are you kidding me?
Yeah, right. Yeah, maybe I'm better at focusing. Well, I'm not great at focusing, but I do keep it to a minimum. But regardless, thank you for being here. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
With all your experience. Let's hop right to it. All right. In your experiences, man, we see what's going on in the transfer portal in all sports. Okay, we're focusing on baseball. what are you seeing are the biggest red flags going on right now in youth sports, be it the transfer portal, be it roster construction, be it NIL, stuff that I really want to get into. What do you see maybe as being the biggest detriment right now, or maybe the hardest thing for you to kind of be versatile about in the new realm that is the youth baseball industry sports complex?
I think from my side is that with roster sizes getting smaller, like at the D1 level, it is trickling down. It's exactly what they had talked about. For example, like junior college Division III schools never would have reached out to me or my team after these kids were sophomores in high school. And that happened this summer. Like they could wait until basically the fall of their senior year, but it's that much more competitive. They're talking to us earlier, but it's good too. Junior college baseball has gotten a lot better. Jim and I have talked about it a lot that, the kids are going to make their decisions where they want to go to school, but junior college baseball is just such a great offering. And around here, there's a bunch of good junior colleges, even if it's not like within our town, within a 30-minute travel time of us, there's a bunch. Within an hour, there's even more. It's such a great option. And I think people look at it negatively sometimes and I get the portal, like it's not great. I get them cutting down to 34-man rosters. That's tough, but it is pumping up like a lot of I'm not going to say lower levels because it's not. It's pumping up like junior college and some Division III. Like it's just more competitive in really good baseball. So I think I'm trying to convince people that it's not a negative connotation anymore. Junior college baseball. It's really good option.
That's a hard thing to do, right? I mean, because people want to go, they want to say, you see them all over Twitter, right? I'm a D1 commit, I'm a D2, or they don't want to say JUCO per se, because we're in this era of, social media, me, a lot of people, hey, look what I'm doing. But I can't agree more, man. The JUCO, the stuff that I see, wow, man, some serious talent. And I think it's become like the minor league baseball, man, of college, in a way that it is not only a stepping stone, it almost seems like it's almost necessary these days. What do you think, Jim?
No, I agree wholeheartedly. I think back when I played baseball in high school in the 90s, the junior college route, like Dan had attested to, was kind of a little bit like shunned. People didn't want to go junior college. And now that's a viable option. And not only is it an option, for the fact that you have a chance to prove yourself, it's cheaper. Rising cost of colleges is through the roof. A chance to make a name for yourself, both as a student, and colleges are looking more and more dipping into the portal, but also JUCO kids who have 2 years of a body of work to show that they're capable of getting, because every roster spot now where they're only being 34, you can't take a chance on a high school kid that for some reason or another doesn't pan out. But after 2 years of JUCO, if a kid has shown that he can play at that level, that's a lot more of a slam dunk for a college coach, I believe, than taking a chance on a high school kid.
Most definitely, man. And that's a direct result of the minor leagues getting cut, 42 teams just being axed, right? I mean, that is, those teams getting cut, and then all of a sudden now you have kind of a vacuum, right?
Yeah, well, especially as the roster sizes are getting trimmed, baseball in general is getting, you're basically, if you're going to take, look at my son's college team, like 8 guys that are going to be let go, I should say, or allowed to pursue options elsewhere. So 8 times 300 Division I teams, right? So that's 2,400 kids, if you're going to say somewhere in that ballpark, are now being trickled down through Division II, Division III, NAIA. So baseball in general at all levels is getting exponentially better, and which means less spots for high school guys because those are being filled by guys that are being trickled down. So the level of baseball I think back, I won a state championship as a head coach in 2010 in a high school in New York, and my number 1 and 2 were 85, and they were virtually unhittable.
Right.
And I think back to my son's sophomore year, just in our county, there was probably 10 guys who threw 88 plus. So baseball in general, and that's not always a good thing, as arm injuries are popping up like crazy. But the quality of baseball has gotten much better, and kids need to adapt to that if they want to play collegially. It's just become more of a grind and more cutthroat than ever.
Wow. Yeah, most definitely. Dan, do you think that is a good thing for baseball in the way that it's more competitive? It is a better quality all the way down the line, more than likely. But are we missing out on some kids? Are we missing out on some development? Some kids, maybe some late bloomers?
Yeah, I mean, I think you always are. I don't think that's exclusive to just right now, though. It's probably always been that way. At the same time, it is what it is. Like, you have to be a grown up, like physically, now to play college sports and college baseball. I say to my kids all the time, I don't care what level it's at, 5'11" and 150 pounds, good luck. And Jim and I preach this about eating and hitting the weight room and whatever, but you're playing against 22 or 23-year-olds maybe right away. I mean, Jim and I went through it. Our kids played varsity baseball as freshmen, 14-year-olds. And I think Jim's son's birthday is kind of late too, but they were both young 14-year-olds playing against 18-year-olds and soon to be 19-year-olds. And the only reason why they hung is because they hadn't fully developed yet, but they were hitting the weight room and they were strong. Now you're going to go through it again at 17 or 18 years old. And you're looking at a dude that looks like basically me, like an adult that you are now competing with. My kid's a catcher. And like, you better look at the rosters for these teams. Like, if you're interested and you see that there's 3 juniors already that are catching, or 4 or 5, and they're 6'2" and 215 to 220 pounds, you better think what you want to do first. Because you can either go there and be the bullpen catcher for a year or maybe 2, or you go to junior college and grow up. And, you always miss kids. Yeah, I know you always miss kids. But these kids know now, like, if they've expressed interest in college baseball, they have been told over and over and over again what you kind of have to do to compete and not be lost in the shuffle. And they have so many more opportunities to do that than Jim and I ever had. Like, the internet wasn't even really a thing with us.
Sure. No, it was, the information definitely wasn't freely given. No.
Right. Just eat. Like, ours was just eat and go play baseball and take many months off at a time or whatever. So yeah, you do lose kids in the shuffle, and there is some development, but again, I don't think that's exclusive to right now. But yeah, there are kids that are late bloomers.
The other day, Dan runs a Thursday drop-in program for pretty elite baseball players, and he has a shortstop who approached me after his Division I commit, and he's probably 5'10", 175, and he was told that he has to get much bigger before he walks on campus, which, when you look at it, is only 8 months away. And that he stood next to a lot of the guys in this team, and the infielders were all in the 190s, 195 range. And I think back to my son's college team, same thing. Like, if you haven't been making a consistent effort in the weight room and getting stronger and putting on weight, you're behind it the minute you step on campus, because a lot of these guys are grown men, and you gone other days of 5'11", 160 getting it done at the high college level.
Wow. And so, Jim, you have a son currently in college, is that correct? Yep.
Yeah, he's a sophomore at St. Bonaventure.
Okay.
He was at another college. He went into the portal. His portal experience, he got a lot of time as a freshman. The coach that recruited him and offered him as a sophomore, and he committed because of the coach and the school. And the coach, unfortunately, got let go 2 weeks before school started.
Man.
And my son was fortunate; he had a good year. He was freshman of the year, and had 4 wins.
How do you adjust to that? I'm sorry. How do you adjust to that, as not only as your son, how he's adjusted to it, but as a parent? Like, you get recruited by a coach, right? And this is happening everywhere. I'm watching it everywhere, and so I'm really interested in the story in the way that what went through your mind, what went through his mind, and it's like, hey, this coach recruited me, and now 2 weeks before the season, he's gone, and now I got a whole new face in there, man. Take us through a little bit of that.
Yeah, so he got offered. He actually got offered the 9th grade summer before his 10th grade year, he pitched in a PBR event and was offered a scholarship through this college. And the pitching coach, amazing. Head coach, amazing. They had a standing phone call, no pressure, standing phone call every week for 6 months. And then my son committed there. He had 7 offers, and he committed there. And that same coach, head coach and assistant, standing phone call every week for 2 years. After that, they came to about a half a dozen of his games from 6 hours away. And we got shocked, first of all, that the pitching coach took a head coaching job at a Division III near us, which he's an amazing guy, and that was great for him. But that was our first kind of our shock, because my son had become really close with him. Right. But then we still loved the head coach. The head coach was 100%. We were locked in with him. He was outstanding person. He was somebody I told my son as a single dad. I told my son, this is a guy I want to be a father to you when I'm not there. And then he gets let go 2 weeks before.
Ooh, and, man, that's rough. That's rough.
Yeah, mid-August. We weren't going back in the portal at that point. My son said, you know what, I'm going to go pitch and figure it out. And it was a complete personality conflict from day one in terms of and there was a lot of guys in the same boat on the team that were just not happy with what this was.
It ruins his experience, man. It hurts his experience, right? Like,
yes, 100%. Yeah. The culture wasn't what he wanted. The everything. So he just pitched. It was put a 4.0 GPA because he wanted to be able to have his best academics as he could. Pitched his tail off, and then went into the portal. And the guy that Coach Raz from Bonaventure, was we had a good number of offers, but he was the one that my son connected to right away. And I look at it as a blessing. It was the best thing that's happened to my son. He's at a school now that he likes better. He likes the program better. He likes the coaching staff better. Everything about it's a win. But for a stretch, Chad, it was rough.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's what I mean. That just I'm so happy it worked out, man. I love to hear that. Yeah. I love to hear that the portal worked out for your son per se and others, because you hear about really bad stories, man, about kids being decommitted and trying to at the last minute. I see him on Twitter all the time, right? Looking like, hey, because of things not under my control, right? I'm back in the portal, man. So, hey, look at, I feel for those kids, man. So I'm happy to hear that, and talent goes a long way. And that's, I think that we were talking about before about how this game has really narrowed down the people that are ready to go right now. Yeah. That's what I think that, going forward is going to be even more, this, your son committed at the end of his freshman year, beginning of sophomore. That's incredible to me, but it's not uncanny these days,
the offer was, we were going to wait and slow walk it, but a lot of the colleges gave us an expiration date.
No, as a sophomore.
Yeah. We had, we had 2 or 3 colleges that gave us one gave us a month, one gave us a week, one gave us a weekend. We had to go check out the school. This was during COVID, so it made it tough because there were no tours. You couldn't really meet with the coaches.
Yeah, right.
And
you're asking like a 15-year-old kid to make a freaking decision. Do you remember being 15? I remember being 15. I'm not making a big decision like that at 15, man.
We thought we made the best decision possible, and it would have been had the coach not been let go.
Correct. Right. Wow, man. Wow. That's the good stuff, man. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on What's Cooking here with Coach Chad, man. I got Dan Termine and Jim. Jim, say your last name for me real quick.
Capalupo.
Capalupo. All right, man. Excellent. Joining us, a couple of great head coaches here that we were talking youth sports, not only youth sports, college sports, and sharing our experiences with you and hopefully some kids that are watching that can maybe get a little insight into what is going on. I'm down here internationally, man. I'm down in South America in Chile, and I have a couple teams that I work with. There's a little league down here, 500 kids that we just started a couple years ago. It's doing really well. But it has now turned into we are getting into, and I know you guys have been through this, but I wanted to kind of expand on this a little bit. Some of the coaches in Little League, that wasn't good enough, right? And so they weren't making enough money. And so they started their own league, which happens to be a pony league. And now we have what is essentially travel baseball. Okay. And it's new down here. It's going through growing pains. It reminds me when I first saw travel ball when I was living in San Francisco in like 2014, 15, my first exposure to travel ball. And I'm seeing some growing pains with that. Coaches moving left and right, kids not getting, the consistent instruction going forward. What kind of solutions are there, might you think, man, for, or is it just part of our society now that kids expect coaches maybe not to be there? They're going to bounce around teams. I got kids 12 years old that I watch, sometimes 13, because I like the way they play. And they play on 2 or 3 different teams. Okay. So what are some solutions for parents or kids to kind of, put it in perspective and kind of, do you have to set yourself up for coaches leaving, for offers to be relinquished, that kind of thing these days in your guys' experiences? Dan, what do you think?
Honestly, more kids need to play Little League. So, I mean, we have.
I'm going to cut that out and put it on a banner.
More travel ball has kind of exploded here the last couple of years. A few more organizations have popped up that are larger now. But when you start getting into multiple teams at each age group, and 2 is pushing it, more than that is ridiculous. People are trying to make money. I don't have a problem with people making money. If that's your business, like if baseball is your business and you're serving these kids, you can make money and still do it ethically.
How would you do that? Because they're making money by poaching kids. I'm watching it all the time. I see arguments all the time on the field. Like, hey, what are you doing talking to my kid? And the guy's like, it's not your kid. His parents came to me, blah, blah, blah. Right?
That's probably every community. But it's tough because I say more kids should play Little League because a lot of these kids, I think, would like it better. Like some of these kids obviously do not want to play travel baseball. They want to just have a good time with their friends. The problem is, and I love all my families, all the parents. We've always had good families. If they weren't, they wouldn't be with us. But I think there's a lot of families that it's kind of keeping up with the Joneses. Like, why would you ever play Little League? I don't know, because your kid is obviously just wants to have a good time.
Yes.
He doesn't have to play for Go to Pro or for gym. Or that's maybe not the experience that they're looking for, but I think there's a lot of people that want to say my kid plays for name your high level team, and it's hard to convince people of that. But you have to pick the experience that's right for you and what your kid wants to do. Like with my kid, when I first got into coaching, I don't know anything about travel baseball. I'd been out of it for a long time. My wife told me about all this, but we had always gone to our kid and said, hey, do you want to do this? And we will give him the opportunities we can afford. If we can't afford them, he wasn't going to do them, but we made sure that he wanted to do it. We weren't going to force him into it. And as far as the coaching, there's some that go from one organization to another. I think around us, a lot of them stay put for a bunch of the time, but you got to have the right fit. Families need to go where they're wanted and are attended to. It's important. It's a lot of money, no matter how you look at it, whether it's $500 or $5,000. It's a lot of money, and they're trusting you with their kid, and they want to feel wanted, and they want to enjoy the experience. And if you're not attentive to them, if you don't return phone calls, if you don't return text, they're going to go somewhere else than they should. Like, this isn't my full time. If I ran a business like some of these organizations and I just wasn't getting back to people, like, what kind of a business owner are you? I do it, and this is not my real job. I feel a responsibility to do that because it's important to them. And I think that's how you bring people to your organization kind of organically and build up a really good reputation. And the rest kind of takes care of itself. The business end of it, like I said, you can make money, you can make it your living and still be ethical about it.
Yeah, I checked around, Dan. Your reputation's solid, man. So you're good.
Tell my wife that.
Awesome, man. All right, right on. Jim, about travel ball, can you parse travel ball down into 3 words? What do you think? What comes up?
It's not 3 words, but I would say it's a little bit more keep up with the Joneses. I think that everybody has to feel like they're at a certain organization because of there's some type of prestige with it. And I think that Dan hit it best. I'm pretty passionate about the idea that a lot of these travel organizations, not all, a lot of them are disingenuous about what they're in it to make money. And listen, if they're a business, that's fine. But we have a local travel organization of a guy that's a buddy of mine. He runs it. He's on the higher end of what he charges. But the kids can come 4 days a week and take swings and take fungos. And there's a gym there and they lift and he does strength and conditioning. And they practice 3 days a week during the summer. And you know what? If you look at the number of hours a kid can get reps in there, then it's worth the money. On the other side, down the street from that same travel organization is another one that is the same price, but they practice a handful of times the whole year. Mm-hmm. And they have 3 travel teams at every organization, at every level. And it's a money grab where kids aren't getting better. And, you know, you blink and a kid goes from age 9 to 11 to 13. Time goes quickly. Kids need to be developed. And a travel organization, it's not all about winning baseball games. It's not all about saying that you play for a certain organization, because you're going to blink and you're going to be 18 and you can't have any regrets. I coached my son in the same travel organization from age, he was played 8U as 6 years old. So 6 to 17, we never left. And my payment was $125 credit on what I had to pay for my son every year, because we were a 501c3. Now, it was because it was father-son time and I enjoyed it and my close friend was coaching it. Sure. Now, if I was running a business, all right, things might have had to be done obviously differently, but you would still do like Dan does. You have to practice. That's where kids get better.
Yes, absolutely. You have to practice. You have to practice.
Yes, you need to and you need to get reps, fungos. You need to get swings, because you could play a tournament and you could get 9 at bats, walk 4 times, get hit by a pitch twice, and have 3 at bats to count and get no balls hit you in the field. Did you get better that weekend? You didn't get any better.
You didn't get better, man.
You're not practicing as an organization. With each team, the kids aren't getting better, and I feel like that's time wasted and money wasted.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. Right on, man. Yes. Hey, man, thanks for joining us, man. We're getting more people in here, man. Thanks for joining Dan and Jim and myself, man. Talking youth sports, baseball. In fact, about hey, needing more reps, practice, getting the travel ball. Like the travel ball model now, I think, is broken. I think that humans always take something and make it worse because they want, greedy. They get better. They want more and more and more until they break it, and then another model comes around. Are you seeing any? I guess my question is to either of you: are you seeing any substance, like another model coming around? Parents starting to gripe about travel ball. Are you seeing anything new coming up on the horizon that maybe these kids could look forward to?
Yeah, I'll let Jim get to it in a minute, but it has to do with him. But American Legion Baseball. So when Jim and I were in high school, it was the top team, if you say elite teams now, was American Legion Baseball. There wasn't anything else. Mm-hmm. The thing that kind of ruined Legion Baseball were, I will admit, teams like mine in gyms, like our club teams. So when club teams form, kids split off of that. Now, I told my families, this year is the last year for this team. These kids are juniors. You don't need to play for me the summer of your senior year. You are throwing money away. With the model that I run, we're trying to get them directly in as many colleges as we can. Well, the summer of their college or school or whatever, they've already made their mind where they're going or committed, but they don't need to play for me anymore. They don't need to spend that money. I don't want to, and I wouldn't take that money. I don't understand these kids that play those tournaments or for a tournament team when they're 18 years old and about to go to school in a month. So
because they're being told that they have to.
Yeah, right? They have to. Or
that, hey, if you want, you're not committed yet, right? You need to go to this showcase, which, by the way, I'm running for $250, right. And there'll be some scouts there. There'll be some college coaches. That's what I'm hearing. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No,
You're correct.
you're right, and I think Jim is trying to bring it back here greatly. The greatest experiences of my baseball life was playing American Legion baseball, and I love playing for my school. I love those guys. Everyone loves playing with your friends, but man, that was so much fun. Like those summers were it was baseball every day. You played with all studs. Like I was offended. I showed up as a 3-hitter on my team, and they made me a PO. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm a 3 and being
Dude,
turned into a PO.
What are you talking about? I rank. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And being a PO on Legion was the best time I ever had. Like you just got to shoot the crap with everyone. I pitched twice a week. But those experiences are great. I think more kids need to do that. It's not just going back to Legion baseball. Like Jim is getting kids in front of colleges now through Legion baseball. So I think that the experience we offer is getting in front of colleges, but Legion will cut into that a little bit. They're a little later in the game than we are, but they do it the right way, and Jim's building it. I'm proud of it because Jim coaches in the town where I played Legion baseball, and like my son who plays for me now is extremely excited to play for Jim after next year. Like it's like he's committing to college. It's ridiculous.
Dude, I love it. I love it, man.
I hope that that's going to be built up.
Most definitely. That's a great point. I'm happy to hear it. Jim, tell me about the current state of Legion baseball.
Yeah. So when I coached Legion baseball from 2000 to 2004, and 2004 is when travel baseball hit Rochester, because I began to have kids for the first time say no to American Legion, and they were committing to a track, or they tried to do both.
So travel, 20 years ago. 20 years ago. Okay.
And we had kids that did both. And back in 2000, when I first started Legion, there were 20 teams in Rochester. There were 20 American Legion teams in District 7, which is the district in Western New York, that Rochester area that I coach and I'm the commissioner of. I coach and the commissioner. And not 3 years ago or 4 years ago, they were down to 4 teams.
Oh,
and now we're up to back to 10.
Hey, all right.
And to play American Legion baseball is $200
for the entire year.
Yep, it's
the entire season. I'm sorry, entire season.
Yep, it's June 1st until playoffs are usually the 3rd week in July, and there's a state championship. My team won the states in 2022 and 2023, and then went on to the regional, which is the step before the World Series. We went to Boston for a week to play there against 6 states in New England. So it's growing, which is great. We have colleges, the junior colleges in our area are pushing their kids as that committed as seniors to play American Legion. And in addition, they're pushing their freshmen if they're age eligible to come back and play. So we have a college called Finger Lakes Community College. It's a buddy of mine's the head coach. It's about a 30-minute drive from where I live. We had 19 of his players last year in the league. So when you bring in college guys, it raises the level of
competition for sure.
Big time. Yep. So, our target market is juniors, seniors, and college freshmen. And we don't go much younger than that. And a lot of kids are some teams, our team is all college guys. Every guy, in order to play on our team, you have to be going to play college baseball because we want kids taking it seriously and still getting swings in, still lifting, still getting phone goals. Some of the teams, which are, by the way, also very competitive, these kids, some of them, the last chance playing baseball.
Right. So I was going to say that's not indicative of every Legion, right?
No.
Okay.
Right. Absolutely not. So we had, if you look at 18-man rosters, last year we had 7 teams. All right. So 120 plus kids. I would say maybe 40 to 50 of those kids were going to be playing college baseball either in 2 years or in a year. And a lot of the guys it was their last year of playing high level organized baseball. And it's wooden bat. It's
baseball in the raw, baby. Yes.
Yeah. It's we have a postseason tournament. We have awards. I've tried to drive it up on social media, posting videos, trying to get kids to see that this is a viable option, and it's fun. It's high level. It's a high level. I mean, baseball games are played 6 o'clock start. Most of the games are done by 7:45 at the latest 8 because wood bats and you're pumping through. And the parity is great because even our team that has lost one game in 3 years in the county, we had a lot of games where it was 1-2 run games because wooden bat's an equalizer.
True. Very true. Absolutely, man. Okay.
Yeah.
So Legion is on the rise. Do you like attribute that to like a vacuum from players coming from travel, being dissatisfied, dismayed with that whole setup and how it's going and how people are really realizing how much of a money grab it can be?
Yeah, we also have, which I'm proud of, because the price is low, we have kids that couldn't afford travel ball. And we have some good players some city kids in the city of Rochester that are playing college next year. They play Legion because they could never afford travel baseball. I mean, we're talking some of the organizations are $4,000.
Oh, no doubt, man. And that, talk about a barrier to entry. Whoa.
Yes.
A huge barrier to entry, for a lot of excellent ball players that cannot obviously pony up that kind of money. The parents can't do it.
So one of the things that I'm a big believer in is, we have a lot of kids that go to these showcases. There's a 0.0% chance when they go to a college prospect camp at a Power 4 school, they're wasting their time and their money because they're never going to get a look. It's just unrealistic. And a lot of these kids are realizing, I don't need to spend that money my junior year, whatever, with the new rules in the NCAA. Just go to a showcase or two, get your footprint on the web. My son got 3 of his offers just from social media.
Right.
And posting videos with metrics, with Rapsodo, with Hit Tracks. And you don't need to every single weekend be traveling to a different tournament in a different state for 8 weekends a month, 8 weekends a summer, and spending all that money. It's not necessary anymore. Baseball has changed. The landscape has changed. Get in front of a college that you can play at and get looked at there at one of their prospect camps.
That is absolutely great to hear because, man, I have a lot of stories with my friends my age who went through, their kids are now grown. They went through all the travel ball, soccer, baseball, and the money they spent on these travel. I mean, my buddy makes pretty damn good money, and he'd say, dude, I don't even go on vacation anymore. My vacation is my kids' tournaments. And that's a sad thing, man. That's like, and you know what? And more power to him, man. They were able to do it. But, are any of his kids now playing like D1 or any college sports? No, because it's really hard to make it. And I'm telling these parents and the kids that I run across now, go to where your kid will enjoy, go to where that you can support them, but also, be smart about the choices you make and the money you spend. I'm hoping we're coming to that. I'm down here in South America. Is that happening at all up there?
The tide's turning a little bit, I think, slowly but surely.
Yeah, I think that I've caught, and Jim and I, especially when we were younger, our teams went to all those places, like the fun play, but it was a forced vacation, and the kids loved it, of course. Kids don't have any idea at that age what $1 really means, and we spent a ton of money. I think I've caught flack for what my team does, which is, there's teams around here that go to 7 tournaments during the summer. Now, our season up here is not what it is in the rest of America. Our season, we go to school later than anyone else. So this year we're done June 26th. And then everyone is basically done second week in August. So every weekend they're away somewhere at a hotel, going to places. They get to say they went somewhere cool. And then they say, well, how many places did you go? And I'm like, well, we went away to a couple, but my goal is to bring people here. Or maybe set up a double header that a couple coaches, local coaches show up to, college coaches, to see these kids. That's going to be realistic, because you talk about 7% of high school athletes playing college baseball. How many percent are going to go play? If we go to Vanderbilt's camp, none of my kids are playing for Vanderbilt, or pick a Division I. How many of my kids, or how many kids on a team percentage wise, if 7% is a lot, are going to go to that school?
7% seems high also.
Yeah, you're wasting it's a waste of money. It's hard to express that to people sometimes. They're like, oh, wait, what are you doing this week? You're staying home to do what? Well, we're bringing in another team to play, and we're inviting a few coaches to show up locally to watch them, where these kids have a legitimate chance of playing baseball in the future. And then we set up we built up enough connections where we set up our own games. A lot of the teams I know are from the Buffalo area, and they like doing that. And I think there is a little bit of a change, but it is hard. I have a much easier time. We're just one team, one independent team. I can do whatever I want. I don't mean it like that way, but we're not.
But it's true.
Yeah, organizations do have a tough time selling to parents. We're staying home, and we're going to do these few focused events to really help out, when a lot of kids and parents say, well, how come we're not going to Cedar Point? Or why aren't we going to Ripken? Well, you said you wanted to play college baseball. So who's coming? Like, are there South Carolina schools that are after you right now that we're going to go down there? So I think it's
a hard conversation to have with a parent, right?
It is hard to have with them, but if that's what they want, I'll give them suggestions. Like, I've steered people to other organizations where maybe we're not right to them, but we practice more than anyone. I brag about it. We practice 60 to 70 times a year outside high school baseball, which is 6 days a week.
That's awesome.
And we play less. We're still trying to play a lot of games, but we don't need to play 60 or 70 games. Like, how am I going to do that? I've got 8 pitchers, and these kids aren't throwing complete games twice a week. We want to practice and develop their skills and get them as much exposure, which is not going to Vandy, like real exposure, as we possibly can.
Excellent. I want to pivot to something that you just brought up that I want to get into. But Jim, like 1 or 2 minutes on like fear of missing out. What are you seeing from parents and when it comes to going to these showcases, going to this, my buddy Trent down the street, I want to play with him. He's going to go play in the Cedar Point tournament. How come we're not going?
Yeah, definitely fear of missing out falls into it, because I think also, I think back to when my son was growing up. The goal was to play college baseball somewhere to just extend his career. I played Division III baseball. I loved it. It was the best 4 years of baseball in my life. Yeah. But some of the expectations that parents have of their kids is unrealistic. And when some organizations are telling kids things that aren't necessarily accurate, and I myself, as somebody that does private instruction, I have a reputation of being very blunt and telling kids what they need to hear and not
probably
what they
want. Successful.
You got to be blunt and tell them, like, because then, you know what, then there's hurt feelings down the road when you don't maximize your potential. So I think these showcases that kids go to every weekend, number one, if you're pitching in showcases every weekend in high intent, that's another whole conversation about going down the rabbit hole.
That's what we're going to get into, man. Most definitely. Yeah. Yes.
But absolutely. I think that if somebody else is doing it, you feel like you have to do that. And it's probably an unrealistic expectation. And I tell a lot of my players, if you are good enough and you go to a couple of showcases, throughout the year, and you have a really well put together social media platform that has videos and that has, information about yourself, and you consistently keep that updated, plus you reach out to college coaches on your own, like DMing, sending out links, emails, that, I just had a kid, and Jake knows who he is, or excuse me, Dan knows who he is. He's a young man that didn't play travel baseball, and he just committed to a JUCO in our area because of a hitting competition that I did, where I posted a video, and one of the local colleges reached out and said, "What's this kid's deal?" Hey, and we started talking. He asked me about his character and his work ethic. Next thing I know, he's going to school there. And those parents he didn't go the travel ball route, but he did something that put himself on the internet. He showed well at that. Plus, I had a little small showcase for about 20 guys, all JUCOs and one D3, and I had 10 guys commit from that.
Dude, I love to hear that, because it's something that is and you put together those guys because you think that they can play at the next level. It's not just an open, hey, come on, and here's $50, and the first 100 people that sign up are going to be able to be in front of these guys, right?
Oh, we might have lost Jim.
Okay, all right.
I can kind of speak for it. Like these kids are like, they know what schools are going to be there, and they're excited about it. show well at it. And that's really the way to do it. We live in the Northeast. Like, nobody is coming up here on purpose in November and December to come watch my team. Like, no matter how good they don't have to do that anymore. So when he talks about the social media aspect of it, we video a lot and send out a lot of stuff. It's important to us and our kids. And I think that if people are waiting around and are not proactive, kids and families, and are not going to do things like that, not to get a coach's attention, email coaches, send video of them, they're losing out. Like, the clock's ticking on them.
Oh,
You got to be able to get someone's attention.
If you don't do that, man, you're way behind, behind. Sending out links, having a highlight reel, DMing coaches, even cold DMs, continue, follow up. There's a lot that goes into being recruited these days. And
I think really, assistant coaches are the easiest people to get a hold of. You know why? Is because they're young kids. I call them kids because they're younger than me. They're young kids and they're eager. They want to show that they can recruit. 95% of coaches I've contacted, assistants, have gotten back to me almost right away. And they go back and forth. They'll text me and they're excited. They want kids. They want to prove that they can do this. So
sorry about that, guys. I got disconnected.
Hey, right on, man. Good to have you back, man. Right on.
Yeah, it's not scary. People, I don't get like organizations that say they have this black book of they have all the contacts. I'm telling you, I run an independent team. That's it.
Yeah.
If I've contacted 50 college coaches, and it's probably more than that, 48 of them, of their assistants, have gotten back to me and very quickly and have expressed genuine interest. So you got to get their attention,
that, man. Because you hear like, oh, no one's getting back to me, this and that, and I think that has to do with maybe the kids' work ethic, or I don't know. I don't want to.
If they don't, move on to the next one.
Correct. Yes, you have to learn. You have to learn to take a no in life, man. It's a good lesson.
Work down your list.
Yeah.
Then they're not going to be. Not everyone's going to be interested.
No, that's true. That's very true. Right on. All right, man. Hey, Jim, welcome back, man. Great to have both of you again here, man, on What's Cooking. Man, we got a nice audience going, man. This is great, talking about what kids are experiencing, what parents are experiencing, what coaches are experiencing. To that effect, man, we talked about earlier. There's a couple topics I wanted to get on, but one is Dan, I think you mentioned earlier about how am I going to play all these tournaments with 6 pitchers, right? 7 pitchers, that sort of thing. Okay. So, my issue is that, that we are really damaging, and I'm watching it even down here. And I don't want to say even down here, it's baseball down here. It's just that these kids want to play so often in every tournament that's, brought up now, that they are hurting themselves because they feel like fear of missing out. They don't want to miss this tournament. They want to, maybe this could be I could be seen by somebody. But they're not really developing. To Jim's point, they're just playing. They're not practicing with you, Dan. Do you guys see that a lot?
Yeah, I don't like the whole velocity issue. Like, I'll take a kid that throws 90 any day, but you better throw strikes. And I was thinking about it today because I knew you were going to ask about it. But I had a kid who came to me who he wasn't really sure about his baseball future, wasn't sure if he was going to go to college. He ended up being one of our best pitchers, topped out at 82, just committed to a community college. He threw last year in a game, he threw a complete game, 65 pitches and 52 strikes.
Wow.
And lost the game. Like, it killed me because we lost that game. We couldn't score. He throws, I was going over stat state, like almost 70% strikes. 68% of his counts or batters he faces less than 3 pitches. And he just has 4 filthy pitches. Like, he's tough to handle. Everything moves, tight spin. His changeup is ridiculous. And he throws 82, like tops out at 82. He's probably 79 or 80, legit 79 or 80. He's going to throw harder.
He's a pitcher.
And we have a lot of kids like that. And everyone is chasing velo. And I get it. Like, I get it. Jim's kid throws hard. Jim's kid plays with another kid at Bonaventure that throws 100 plus. literally.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm not a huge fan of watching run and guns in November and December. Like, do we really need to be doing that? That like in high school around here, we preach long toss. My son who's a catcher and one of our pitchers have a long toss a throwing progression in the winter that they throw with each other. And we're huge on long toss, and velocity will come, but man, we go crazy. Jim and I go crazy. If you can't throw strikes, you throw 95 and you're throwing 48% strikes. I don't need that. Like, I'll go crazy.
And we can't. And you're not going to be able to pitch if you're injured, if you're hurt, if you're Tommy John, if your elbow lesion, if you got a problem, man, with your elbow, shoulder, because you're not throwing strikes and because you're not taking care of your arm. And I'm seeing more of a kind of movement towards that. I talked a lot with Jaeger Sports, man, who great armcare.com, man, is just like fantastic about long toss, about taking care of your arm. You don't need to throw less all the time. You actually need to throw a little bit more to build up your arm. Jim, my question to you is, man, are we chasing velo to our detriment?
To a degree, there's a right and a wrong way to chase it. I'm a big believer in one of the big components of it is just getting bigger and getting stronger. Get in the weight room, more mass, more gas. If you're doing that and you're long tossing. So my son has never been a plyo ball guy. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with those. He's been always a long toss, mobility, lifting guy. And he doesn't baby his arm. And I think there's a big difference between pitching and throwing. We need to pitch less and throw more. Yeah. Kids they are being told to not throw as many pitches, which isn't always being followed, by the way, because if you're playing on multiple travel teams and Legion,
how do you
300 pitches a week?
Yeah, how do you keep track of like who they're playing with, and if they're telling you the truth? How many pitches did you throw? Hey, Hochi, hey, I told you my dog was going to get on here. So we got a guy walking down the street. He's a protector. But the whole point is, like, how do you massage that as a coach? If you know a kid's playing on another team and you talk to him about how many pitches have you thrown and where have you pitched last? Do you ask him those kind of questions? And
Well, one of the best things that we have is we watch Game Changer. So we are constantly watching it. And there have been many times where we had to step in, ask a kid, how's your arm feel? I feel good. Well, you just threw on Wednesday 85 pitches, and you're scheduled to start for us on Friday night. Like, you're not throwing. And he wouldn't have said anything because he can, he's a tough kid. He wants to win, but at the same time, you got to win. You don't want to win the battle and lose the war. And win a meaningless game in June, and all of a sudden you're on the shelf with an arm injury because you
How often, Dan, do these kids being able to say no? I mean, if these days I don't hear kids say no very much to a coach saying, "How's your arm feel?" and "Can you pitch today?"
It's hard. We're very honest about it. Just about all my kids are exclusive to my team. They will every once in a while go play for someone else. I don't really encourage it. Not that I don't always trust, but Jim's right. Like, say what you want about Game Changer, we watch it. But the tournaments are the big issue, which is why we have gotten away from even 4-game. Like, we do 2 and 3 game weekends. When you start for us on Friday, you're done pitching for the rest of the weekend. You do not touch the mound again. We have a small roster. I don't even necessarily like putting them in the outfield all the time. Sometimes I have to. But these tournaments, you see kids wheeled out there 3 times. And I'm talking about a start Friday, some relief Saturday, and then maybe a start again Sunday or a short term. That's the problem. If you don't have the arms for that, then I guess you don't do it. Like Jim's team, he's built up pitchers very specifically, so he doesn't have to deal with that issue. But we got 8 to 9 kids that pitch probably. If you're talking about going a considerable distance, probably 4, maybe 5 that'll be legit starters. So it's the multiple days a weekend. I mean, if you're doing it the right way, and we do in long toss during the week, you're building up your strength and mobility, and then you're getting your start on the weekend, or you're getting a couple short relief
Yeah, and you're doing that
Oh,
kid a big service, man. You are elongating his career, you're elongating his health, all in the name of not chasing, as they say, plastic trophies in travel ball.
what starters in college in the pros who are stronger than these kids, far stronger than these kids, start on Friday and then start again on Sunday,
Yeah,
or throw three? None.
that's
And
not
yet we're
happening.
telling 15, 16, 17, 12-year-olds, 10-year-olds,
Yep.
go throw 200 something pitches plus all your warm-up pitches plus
Oh,
everything else this weekend. It's
yeah. And then go play shortstop after.
exactly. Yep.
I mean, I see that all the time down here. I stopped coaching for this one team down here, and it broke my heart. But it was just a different culture. There was a cultural difference, man, between me and the coaches. And the coach would not warm up kids before he'd bring them in, right? Like to change the pitcher out in the middle of the inning. These are little league kids, like 12 years old, 11, 10, 13. And I'm like, dude, you have to warm him up before you bring him in. You can't just have him at third and then go start throwing. And we just had philosophical differences on that. And, and that's what I'm seeing, that a lot of coaches are just doing what they have to plug players in, to meet the thresholds, to meet the pitch counts, to meet what is needed. And my instance down here is a little bit different. It's kind of Wild Westy still. We've now implemented with Little League. We're a Little League, standardized team, standardized league. So we can travel. We played in like Puerto Rico and Panama and all these places to, get these kids some exposure. But also now they have pitch counts and limits. My first couple of years here, that wasn't the case. And it was brutal to watch, man. It was brutal to watch, the poor kids. But, all right, man. Wow. Dude, guys, we're coming up on an hour, man, but we got a great audience, man. I don't want to stop, man. So I want to keep on talking, man, a little bit about Jim, is there something on your mind when it comes to what you're seeing, and how maybe that you, with your success and with people wanting to play for your team, American Legion, and, what are you seeing? Maybe we talked about a shift, but also when it comes to arm injuries, when it comes to overuse, is that getting reined in at all?
I think so. But I don't, if you look at, go back to when I was growing up in the 90s, obviously velocity wasn't the same as it is now when I was playing high school baseball. But I didn't know anybody who had arm injuries ever.
Yeah,
and
it was rare. It was rare.
Yeah. And so now we're in the year 2024. We have better strength and conditioning. We have pitch counts for the first time ever. I mean, I remember my senior year in high school, we played in the sectional. The sectionals are all in 1 week. One kid, he ended up beating us in the final. He went 7 innings in 1 week, all like north of 150 pitches. That was the norm. You that's what you did. So if you look back to those times, no arm injuries, but back then we didn't have strength and conditioning. We didn't have pitch counts. We didn't have the science and technology we have now. All that should lead to us having less arm injuries, but there are more.
Yes.
And one of my big things is, and I've done this with my son, and at the end of the day, you can do whatever you need to do to try to keep somebody healthy, but sometimes it's just bad luck, is there's got to be mandatory shutdown period. Like I feel like kids should not be throwing baseballs in December.
Absolutely, dude. Hey, shout it from the rooftop, man. Come on.
Like when I was growing up, baseball ended in July, early August. You played football. I didn't touch a baseball again until February after basketball season, and then we got ready for baseball in March, and we never had arm injuries. I feel like kids throwing year round, take fungos year round, take swings year round, shut down your arm from November 1 to January 1 every year, and it will do wonders.
Jim. I love it, man. And if anyone listening, man, please do your kids a favor. If you're a coach or if you're a kid, take that to heart. Your arm needs to rest, period. Yeah. Just like you get 8 hours of sleep a night, or try to, your arm needs 8 hours of sleep. And that would mean a month or two off. And go play a different sport. Go play water polo. Well, maybe not water polo using your arm like that, but basketball or something like that. But that kind of thing. I love that. I love that, man. Excellent. I see a lot of that. The kids, they, year round down here, they don't stop. I see that everywhere on social media, that the kids are always looking for a new place to play. I'm more interested in, I know there's all those, all those, all those things that aren't working out. The kids are getting hurt. They're talking about, do you think, okay, here's a good one. Dan, do you think Rapsodo's, driveline baseball, that sort of thing where everything is measured, including bullpens, right? Okay. Do you think that is good for the sport and good for, say, a 12-year-old to do that to his arm at that time in his life?
Probably not that young. Like you don't really need to do it. I think Jim kind of alluded to it earlier. I'm not going to dismiss that stuff completely at an older age, but at 12 years old, if you're on the small field, you don't need that. It's fun to watch. Like the fun part is Jim has hitting competitions with hit tracks. And so you get to see how far your ball went and exit. And even the younger kids, they like to see that. That's cool. But it's not a stress. You're doing that stuff at a young age. Yeah, it's definitely a stress, and it's not needed. I don't think they haven't hit puberty a lot of the time.
Right.
And you've got kids that are full foot.
The ligaments aren't formed, man. They're not formed yet, right? I mean, Jim, am I wrong here? I mean, when the kids, the biceps not formed, the shoulders, the tendons, and if you're trying to do adult exercises, right, at age 12, 13, that's gonna really, I think, be detriment to you, long-term health.
I agree. I think that kids are, and they empty the tank every time out. They're throwing as hard as they can, and
they're being told that.
It's and no one's pitching anymore. It's throwing.
Yes.
They're not locating a changeup. They're not getting ahead of hitters. Here you go. We'll throw it by you, and everything is max effort. And at some point, you do that enough, and you're going to put yourself in harm's way.
No doubt. It amazes me the amount of kids that have come to us that at 16 years old throw fastball, and they don't know. They know how to kind of throw a curveball, but I still have to teach them a curveball grip, and a changeup is like their head explodes.
Yeah.
So they've been so used to just chasing velocity this whole time. And the first thing I say to them is, well, it's great. You throw hard. Okay. So you throw 82, like we hit 82. That's not, you better have something else.
You need something else.
Changeup has come back. Like when Jim and I were growing up, and probably you too, Chad, changeups were not around.
No, they weren't around that much. And if someone had a good one, they wiped everyone out, man. Yeah.
Like my changeup was a screwball, which is just terrible for you. But I didn't throw a changeup. But having a fastball changeup, but these kids are just so used to, I want to throw harder, just fine to a point. But again, Jim's right. You need to pitch. You need to be able to get out of jams and not have to rely on throwing as hard as you possibly can to get someone out. We want ground balls. That's all we want. If you strike someone out, fine, but we preach ground balls because we feel like in the years past better than anyone else. And that's what we're pitching to. It's hard because these kids do want to throw a lot.
No, you're probably right now. You're probably maybe having some kids not join your team because of maybe that philosophy. I don't know. I could imagine. Yeah, I could imagine that. That you're. And, we used to pitch, I was a pitcher back in the day. We used to pitch to quadrants, right? We used to, high and outside, high and inside, down low. And I don't see pitchers doing that. I work with kids now, and they're just like, I just want to throw strikes. I'm like, well, a well-placed fastball is still the best pitch in baseball, right? I mean, if you can handcuff someone, and get a ground ball to third, that's great stuff.
A part of that comes from playing, in my opinion, playing catch with a purpose. Instead of just using your arm, just playing catches just to get loose. It should be a skill acquisition activity where you are working on hitting spots just with guys playing catch. Remember, we put a glove up, hit a spot. Kids now, if you went and watched the practice, half the balls are being chased. Kids are throwing balls over their heads or short hopping them instead of playing catch with a purpose. And my high school coach, he was like a second father to me. He probably would last 15 minutes in 2024 as a coach, in his philosophy. But when we played catch in the gym, if the ball hit the bleachers, everyone did 25 push-ups.
You're running or something of that nature, correct?
Yeah. I mean, anybody. If one person hit the bleachers, the entire team did push-ups. And you learn quickly how to play catch with a purpose and lock in and focus every rep. Because if you can't play catch with a purpose and do what you're supposed to do, how are you going to get on a mound and hit your spots? You're not going to do it.
Is that going to go over if you were to implement that now? Is that going to go over with this generation?
I think if you explain to them the reason why we're doing it, and I think it would. I think if you explained, like, listen, this is why we're doing this, and give the kids an explanation that if you can't make a throw from 90 feet playing catch with no pressure, how are you backhanding a ball in the hole and throwing it across the diamond? How are you hitting a cutoff man? You're not gonna do it. So if you can't do the simple things, you can't do the big things.
Wow, great point. Dan, you want to expand on that at all?
Yeah, as long as you explain it to them. I think there's too much, maybe just not experience in coaching, where a coach sees something that someone else says, oh, those kids run and do all this, they get punished for that. Jim's right. You better be able to explain it to them. You can't just have kids throwing and then say, oh, I do 25 push-ups or run, and not explain how important that is or how that's setting them up for the future. Or when they are older and they're in front of college coaches, guess who's watching them before games? Like, you go to their college, go to a camp there or something there, they're watching you play catch. If you airmail 6 out of 15 throws, good luck. So if you can explain that to them and say, this is risk reward here. If we can get through a whole practice and be proficient at this, maybe there's a small reward at the end or whatever. Older kids don't need it as much. They don't like the risk, though. They don't want to do 20. No one wants to do 25 push-ups. I don't care.
So they'll naturally kind of herd the other kids in to, get with the program.
Yep.
You
you get better playing with better kids. And I learned that with my kid coming up through Little League and travel ball. Like, we put him on teams where kids were either older or better than him. And he got better and did things the way that they did it. And I always tell kids this: if someone is doing something better than you, just copy. Just rip it off of them completely if they're that good. Right. Jim and I just had this conversation last week at our practice. My whole game when I grew up was ripped off of someone else, either someone on my team or watching someone on TV. Completely.
Who'd you watch on TV, man? Who'd you model yourself after?
Well, my favorite player was Ricky Henderson.
Dude,
but
dude, I grew up in the Bay, man. Come on, dude. That guy was the man.
He was. But if I was 0 for 3, that was a major slump for me in, like, life ending. So I would just watch someone who maybe hit better than me. I'm like, oh, they do this, so I'll just do that. These kids need to do that. They're always looking for instruction from us. Sometimes they had to figure that out from themselves, or the kid that's taking a ground ball at shortstop right in front of them who's a stud.
No doubt. No doubt. Right on, man. Jim, did you have someone that you kind of modeled a game after, man, when you were younger?
My favorite player, even though I never played shortstop in my life, my role model, my idol growing up was Cal Ripken. I was a huge Ripken fan.
Yeah.
But I was an outfielder my whole life. So all the way through.
I mean, Mr. Consistent, right? You just knew every day that guy was going to give you 110, show up on the field. And it's interesting you bring that up about the kids, about, not being able to. I mentioned about, the team effect, one guy, being a part of a team. And, I'm a former Marine, so I come from the school of, like, you're only as strong as your weakest link. Okay. And when you're talking about doing 25 push-ups, if the ball hits the ground and stuff like that, we'd always have the mantra of the, you're only strong as your weakest link. And if one guy failed, dude, everyone failed, everyone paid. Right. I don't see that these days, obviously. I mean, I'm kind of dating myself back then, but I think that kids could use that sort of mentality as the pendulum kind of swings back and forth to me, and what can I get out of this? What do you guys think about that? I mean, I guess I'm interested to see, like, the what is going on out there in the way of putting teams together. Are you seeing maybe that a team is maybe better than a collection of individuals going forward, and maybe parents and kids will see that?
So we touched on it earlier about travel ball versus American Legion. I think travel baseball is to showcase yourself. Me. A lot of those, they're not getting bunts down. They're not hitting behind the runner. those are not things that are being done. Whereas American Legion, because our goal is to win a World Series, and we were a walk-off away from that 2 years ago. That's the goal. Is we tell kids, listen, this isn't travel ball mentality. You better be able to get a bunt on when necessary. You better be able to hit behind the runner, give yourself up, take pitches to allow a kid to steal a bag when you know we're doing it. And that's the idea, is that some of the kids, that's not the mentality they're used to. They're used to do what you have to do to showcase yourself. And in the summer, it's not about winning the games as much as about how do I look in the eyes of other people, or am I showcasing myself, whatever it may be.
Do you run into friction with that at all?
No, because that's the expectation from the beginning, and I think the kids do want to win.
Yeah, like Dan talked about earlier, maybe you lay that out before you even get to that point, right?
100%. And we've built up a reputation that, listen, every one of you guys is playing college baseball. We don't care where you're playing. Everyone is on this team. So that plays no role. You may be a big fish in a small pond on your high school team, but you're one of 18 guys that's doing the exact same thing. So get in line and do what is expected. In 2020, not to get off tangent, but in 2023 we won this, or 2022 we won the state championship, and my son fortunately was the state player of the year for American Legion. And in the fifth inning, he got down a sack bunt, the first bunt of his entire life in a game, to get the tying run in. And then in the seventh, he hit the go ahead home run. So there's a kid that hit in the middle of the lineup that got a bunt down, and then 2 innings later hit a home run. And that was every kid in our Legion team. Get a bunt down, do what's asked of you. This isn't travel ball. We're trying to win ball games, and sometimes you got to do what you got to do and give yourself up to do it.
No doubt about it, man. I love to hear that stuff, man. So baseball's alive and well, baby. I love to hear that, man. I hear some doom stuff, and I go to games around here and I see a lot of individualism. Some teams, yeah, it's not bad, but that's great to hear, man. Good stuff. Wow, man. We got a pretty good audience going, man. Dan from Go to Pro Baseball, man, and Jim from Triple Crown Prospects, man. We are having a great, fantastic baseball conversation, talking about your future, talking about coaches and what we could do to help them kind of stem this tide of, revolving kids in and out, arm injuries, using kids for tournaments excessively. I think it's important that we talk about that, that this is out there, that people can understand, they can talk to other people. It puts something in their head, maybe I shouldn't throw on this Sunday after I just threw Friday, maybe 2 or 3 innings, but, maybe I shouldn't do that. Mess up my further. I see so many kids down here with arm injuries so early. It's so sad. And I want kids to be able to see their potential and see where they can go in this great game. And like you said, a lot of them aren't going to go to college or to play, minor league baseball or anything, but it's the love of the game, man. And that's what I love about Little League. That's what I love about American Legion coming back in your area. Sounds like it's coming back in a lot of areas. And I love to hear that pendulum swinging a bit, because I think we got way too out on the curve, man, with travel ball. As humans tend to do, they take something they can see an advantage, and they will expose it for as long as they can until people get tired of it. And I'm hoping that is the case here. So Dan, man, hey, dude, any parting thoughts, man? Anything that we didn't cover that maybe you wanted to speak about to this audience, man, that's going on close to 100 people in there?
I don't know. As far as travel ball goes, Jim and I are kind of in different spots right now, although he was in mine too. And I really believe in my team, in what we're doing. Our goal is to enable kids to play baseball for as long as they can at the highest level they can. If that's college, great. And that's what I'm really proud when I said at the beginning of this, where I think 5 out of the 6 of my seniors are going to commit to play college baseball. 3 have already. But if that just means they're going to get a chance to start on their varsity baseball team and contribute there, or not even start, just contribute at some level. And maybe that's the end of their baseball career, if you want to say it that way, then that's what we're going to help them do. Like that, we're going to get them in the best shape possible for that. I don't promise anything. I lay out the model to my families and the new ones that are coming in. I never once say that your kid will play college baseball if you come here. Unfortunately, and Jim knows this, there are other programs that do promise that. But the big thing with us is giving them that opportunity. I think we do it the right way. Like I said before, we practice more than anyone else. And it bothered me that I had to raise prices this year. But when I look back on it and say, we're going to, we practiced 60 something times this year outside of high school practice. And like for our registration might be a couple $100 more than another organization that last year practiced 8 or 9 times during the winter.
You're getting good value right there. They're getting good value.
Yeah. And they have, and this, listen, it is what it is. Like I have freedom. I'm not making money off this. Jim will tell you, like I lose a fair amount of money off this. It's fine. That's just the deal I made with myself.
You lose money off this. That's an interesting statement. So you're running a program that loses money, but because you love to be around the kids and to show them, how to go about their business and to give them the best opportunity to advance, that you're okay with losing money.
Yeah, but it's very planned out. Like I have a vision for this team, for these kids that I specifically ask them and their families about. We have a very small roster size and a team practice. You can sell yourself as you charge less than I do, but when you have an organizational practice with 5 teams and 50 kids, my shortstop's getting 100 something reps and yours is getting 8. So if you want to compare, listen, there's organizations that do that I like, but don't compare when you're talking about price when it's up to that. Like we budget very specifically for our family's needs. It's a lot to ask of them, but we're going to give them as much as we possibly can in return. And that's just a little different. But like I said, there are positive organizations and teams out there at the travel ball level.
No, there's no doubt about it. I mean, but I think it's important that you speak to your truth, speak to, what you're about, and what you're doing is fabulous, Dan. And that's why I love keeping in contact with you, following you, and and having conversations like this, and so because I think you're doing great for the game of baseball for these kids. And, this is going to be something that you'll always be able to look back on and say, man, I feel very good about what I did. And you don't know what in the future this might, what opportunities this might bring as well.
Yep.
Right on.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Jim, tell me about something maybe that you wanted to speak about, man, before we wrap this up, man.
No, I haven't been fortunate to be involved with baseball my whole life, 25 years as a coach. And then in addition to following my son's path. And I think if I had to give a piece of advice to somebody that's going through this with a younger kid, is, statistically the chances of your son making a living playing baseball are pretty slim. I've had, all the players I've coached, I had 2 kids play professionally, but none of them made a living doing it. And I always tell my players, play baseball as long as you can. And each one of you has a different path. But when you're done with this, when you hang them up, because at some point you will, look back on it fondly and that you did things that made yourself enjoy the game and have fun, because it goes quickly.
Fantastic. Wow. Well, guys, as you can see, I'm losing daylight here in the family cabin here in Pichidongui, Chile, dude, on the coast, man. Look it up, man. It's a hard word to spell, but it's one of my favorite towns. Cool little fishing village. But dude, once it was a kind of a late trip, and me and Dan had talked about this, and I'm like, I got it. We're going to do this regardless, man, because I knew this conversation was going to be fantastic. He said, I got a buddy that you really need to talk to. I want him on the show. And Jim, you are as good as advertised, man. And
thank you.
I appreciate both you gentlemen for spending time, man, talking about youth baseball, where it's headed, maybe some warts going on, but also some solutions, which is important, going forward, man. And I just want to thank both of you, man, for coming on. And hey, people watching this, man, it's great to have you. I appreciate you. We're going to have more and more What's Cooking with Coach Chad. I don't have a schedule. I'm not a schedule guy, but if some topic comes up that I want to talk about, I'm going to reach out. I'm going to grab you and we're going to talk. So you hit me into my DMs, man, and we will do so. So, hey, Dan, Jim, best
Thank
of luck to you. Continue to grow these kids, man. I want to applaud you for that. I think it needs to be said more and more, especially in this day and age, man. Those kids are very lucky to have you and to continue to grow this game that we all three love. So, very good
Thanks,
stuff.
Chad.
All right.
Good talking to you. Thanks, Chad. See you, Dan.
Hey, my pleasure. All right, guys. Excellent.
Yes.
Have a good night.
Hey, you do the same, man. And thank you all for, I'm going to keep you on for a second. Thank you all for checking out What's Cooking. Dan, you the man, dude. I've been wanting to say that for a little while, but Dan, you the man, and I appreciate you. And thanks for coming on. Thanks, everyone, for listening. We're an hour and 20 of some great baseball conversation. It'll be recorded. It is recorded. It'll be on my site. Go ahead and on Twitter and go ahead and play that. All right. From Pichidungi, Chile, all the way to upstate New York, we are What's Cooking with Coach Chad and Mr. Dan Termine.
Termine.
I
You'll
knew
get it
it.
right one of these
All right.
times.
All right.
Next time.
Next time, Termine. All right. We are out.
Yeah.